I'm Aider. I'm the Startup Grind Mongolia Chapter Director. Here, I would like to introduce our next rockstar guest, Ryan Smith, founder and CEO of Qualtrics. Qualtrics is an online survey software company for enterprises based in Seattle, Utah, Dublin. The company was recently valuated over $1 billion, and it has 700 employees and 6,000 enterprise clients, and the numbers are growing. So everyone, let's stand up and give a huge applause to our guest, Ryan Smith.
When was the last time somebody from Mongolia introduced you?
It's been a while. It's definitely been a while.
Well, we're thrilled to have Ryan here today. I met Ryan when I met Ryan in my early 20s in college. Went to college together, and I remember we used to play Halo 1 on the first Xbox. We had it all, linked up. We had one team upstairs, one team downstairs, and I remember. One night we played into the middle of the night. I remember one night, late night, I heard I heard you were working on some startup, and I remember turning to you, and I was like, "So Ryan, what are you working on?" Because I was trying to, I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I didn't have any good ideas. And I remember turning to say, "What are you working on?" And you go, "Well, I'm building a survey product with my dad." And I was like, "Oh, cool." No. And that was it. I didn't ask any more questions because I was like, I don't even care. That's not me. That doesn't sound interesting. That's not going anywhere. And here we are, 10 years later, and you're the founder of $1 billion company, and I look kind of like an idiot. Yeah, you can clap for Ryan, which then makes me feel worse about not trying to get in. So,
At least you didn't start working for us like everyone else that we were playing Halo with and said, "I'm out of here. This sucks."
Did everyone think you were crazy? Because I definitely thought you were crazy.
Yeah, I think you got to be a little nuts. I mean, I think that's something that people don't talk about. It's like you got to be a little off to sit in the basement for as long as we did, or do some of the things you're going to have to do, because people think it's like one event. One event is like, okay, we're going to start. And that couldn't be further from the truth. I mean, in the early days, we started maybe 20 different startups, if you were to add it up, within the first 3 years. And so it's not one startup experience, it's one, and then another, and then another, and everything we shot for didn't work. And so we've got to do it again. So yeah, you've got to be a little crazy, and it's kind of all a blur at this point, but.
You were literally in your dad's basement for 5 years. I mean, that sounds really sexy and cool and super glamorous. Tell us about some of the stories. What were some of the things that happened in the confines of the basement?
The secret basement, the vault. So a lot happened. First of all, I was the sales guy. I was the CEO. I was basically everything that I had to be. It wasn't sexy. The hardest part in the basement was recruiting. A couple weeks ago, I was down with one of our early employees, and I said, people always ask me, how'd you start your company? I'm going to ask you, 8 years ago, why the hell did you join us? What were you thinking? I know what I was thinking. The economics were phenomenal. I had this big dream. Why did you drop everything to come and stick with it? And in reality it just wasn't how any of us thought about it in our heads. We had 25 cars out on the side of the house, so the garbage man couldn't pick up the garbage. And so on Thursdays, everyone had to park somewhere else and scatter, and that was a real pain. We had customers. I remember when Google Maps came out, customers are like, "Aren't you guys in the White House?" And I was like, no, oh, you must have a bad address. I don't know why you would think that, right? But I also remember crazy times like closing our first major corporate client from the basement and sitting in the United Airline counter going, do you think they know that there's just two of us in a basement? Like, do you think they know that? It just felt that much more validating to how crazy the world was. And it's like, look, that's the hand we were dealt. We're all dealt different hands. That's the one we were dealt, and it ends up to be part of the story.
And eventually, fast forward 7 years later, you're a $50 million revenue business, spitting off $30 million of cash every year, and you've bootstrapped it, and just it's incredible, it's insane. And this you had this kind of very unique path to the enterprise. I want to talk about the enterprise, and you started in academia. I wonder if you could tell us why in the world you would start there, because that seems like a horrible place to go try to get people to spend money. And what your focus was there, because it really was, it's been critical to your success.
It's definitely a road not traveled, right? Academics are super smart, super demanding with no money, right? It's not the typical VC playbook that someone would come and want to make a 10-year bet on. Reality is the way that we drew it up in our heads, and we started and we went after this market. Well, the market that we went after wasn't ready and didn't work. So I talked about a bunch of startups, and then we actually shifted, because my father was actually an academic researcher and a scientist, and we said, hey, well, we have a built-in case study right here. He likes what we're doing. Why don't we go find everyone that looks like him and started profiling everything about him? And then we went and targeted the academic world, and where we shot there didn't work. And so it wasn't till about the fourth or fifth time in the academic market did we kind of hit a vein where people were actually willing to buy what we were selling. And for me, that was the early indicator. Is like, I'm not going to go try to scale this business. And I see a lot of tech companies coming up to me saying, hey, Ryan, this is where we're going. Here's our plan. And I'm like, it's not going to work. Well, why do you say that? You don't believe in me? No, I totally believe in you, but out of the 400 bets we placed at Qualtrics, I think we've got it right on the first try once. And so you've got to go in and you've got to have a vision to where it's going to go, but then you've got to be able to let go of that vision very quickly and pivot and know, hey, that got us out in the water, but where we're going from here, it's uncharted territory. And that's what happened in academia. And we found a group of academics that wanted us, so we signed up one school and then got to another, and then another, and we had about 10 schools. And at the time, my brother, who was a co-founder, was at Google, and I would call him every day, talking to him, telling him about all these things that were going through my head, and I was just kind of everywhere. And he's like, look, the only thing that's working for you right now is the academic market. When I talk to you, I do not want to hear about anything but where you're at in academics. I was like, well, that's not very fun. Like, I went to lunch with someone and they want me to go do this and all these different things. So we came up with this deal that we were going to target 250 universities. And literally, every time I would talk to him, I'd call him, hey, our servers, where are you at on 250? Where are you at on 250? Where are you at on 250? And it was genius, because once we got to 250, kind of the rest took care of itself. And that's how we ended up in the academic market. And it's actually been probably one of the best things that we've done, because we've got 800,000 academics every single year on our product that have then taken us to the corporate world. And we had a goal that we just wanted to make sophisticated research simple for every academic. And that's completely transitioned into the enterprise. And if you think about an academic institution, it's just like an enterprise, because you've got a bunch of different schools that make up a university, and no one talks to each other. So it's just like a business.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting because we all remember what Facebook did, and they came. I was in college when they hit our school, and we all started using it. And then as we all left college, and we kept using it, and then we spread it to our families and whatever else. Like it's a similar model for you, where I'm sure it wasn't deliberate, but you've got these students who are taking these, quizzes, and you've got teachers who are the educators, who are the people that the students are looking up to, and the students are going through this process like, wow, this is really cool. And then they leave, and they're going to work at wherever they're going to work, and they get there like, hey, go do some market research. It's like, well, what am I going to use? Well, I used this really cool tool in college. Have you seen that? Have you seen the product kind of spread that way virally through from the students than going to school and then taking off for jobs?
Yeah, it's really how we got into the enterprise. And the way that I know that is because we had no marketing. So, as he said, we were a $50 million company kicking off $30 million in cash, and we wouldn't spend any of it on marketing. And so it was someone at Heineken calling us because they used it at Kellogg. It was someone at Expedia calling us because they used it at University of Washington. And it just started growing that way. And that's really tough to predict. I mean, no one's gonna line up and say, hey, I'm gonna take an 8-year bet, I'm not gonna raise any funding, and I'm gonna hope that there's some virality in our go-to-market. Like, it doesn't work that way. And it has for companies. I think this is a really hard thing for entrepreneurs. It has for the Dropboxes, and it has for the Googles and Instagram. You can't really predict it, though. Like, that can be like a hope. It's like buying a home and expecting like this huge appreciation of your home. And you just can't bank on that. You've got to deal with what it is today from a business model standpoint. And if it happens, great. But if that wouldn't have happened, there would have been a plan B, and there would have been a plan C or even D. So I think we're fortunate that it all worked out that way. And now that we have 2,000 universities using us and 7,000 businesses. But what's also changed a lot is people in the academic world were using us for a whole bunch of things. So it went into the business, and it wasn't just research. It's, everything. People want to gather feedback on their employees and their customers. And, we'll have 400 to 500 to 600 users within an organization right now, all doing, crazy data collection and analysis. And that's what's becoming the norm for someone coming out of school. When we first started, no one wanted to do it themselves, and they weren't technical. So we were a little early, and we rode this new kind of millennial or technical kind of wave into the organization at the right time. And so it's super fortunate. No one could have predicted, including yourself playing Halo, that in 2002 we would have
winning at Halo. Yeah,
winning Halo.
Owning at Halo.
That's why you were so good, right?
Right. I wasn't doing anything else.
But Facebook. You were doing Facebook.
I was doing Facebook too.
But that's why, we kind of caught it at the right time. And I think we're super bright and we're smart entrepreneurs, but we're pretty lucky as well that we got it at the right time.
When you walk into Qualtrics in Provo, Utah, if anybody's been to Provo, Utah.
Yeah.
Bust them in too.
Yeah.
The walk.
We'll take you both back with us.
That guy, please take the one, the clapper guy.
Yeah.
Clap off. So you walk in, it's like Google in Provo, Utah. I mean, this office is incredible. And you there are people all on the phones, and you've got this huge sales force, and they're just it's just it's electric, right? It's like the scene out of Moneyball or something, but it feels like, and they're, and it works. And you've created this sales culture. So here in the Valley, it's product, but I think that's changing into how to create a great product with a really great sales culture. And I wonder how did you create that great sales culture?
Yeah, well, first of all, the sales side of the world starting to become, I just read that article in the Wall Street Journal saying it's super hard to find great salespeople, right? It's starting to become really real for a lot of companies. That's not what most entrepreneurs are hearing is how do we sell? And reality is in what I would call this next gen of enterprise, everyone's struggling with it. You think of what is the best SaaS sales company of all time? I don't know. Because the ones that you would say, I would say we're better than them, right? The fact of the matter is no one's had to sell that long into SaaS. And the way people are buying is totally changing. It used to be a top-down approach, and then you've got these consumer companies trying to go enterprise, and that's not working very well. And so you've got people in the middle, and they're trying to go up and down, which is kind of where we sit. And so it's kind of the wild, wild west from the way people are buying. So even all these consumer companies now are trying to figure out, how do we sell? And my phone rings all the time saying, how are you guys doing it? And it's a changing world, but there's 100x engineers and there's also 100x salespeople. So we've, fortunately enough, created a culture where we've got a strong engineering culture and a really strong sales culture in the same building. And that's hard. It's really hard to do. And it happens, it's really come from my brother and I, both coming from different worlds. He's a product guy at Google, super engineering culture based. And then I come from having to close every deal. And together, our people in the company or anyone in product, they're the most important people on the 3rd floor of our building. And the salespeople are on the 1st floor, and they're the most important people. And every other function in the company is to support those two. And it's that simple. That's how we think about the business. And I think it's something that's starting to become a real big challenge. You look at some of the legacy companies, the way that they used to sell with the United Airlines frequent flyer person waiting in line and showing up at your door, that's not going to work anymore. The way Microsoft Launch isn't going to work going forward. I was recently at an event talking to one of my CEO buddies who was like, hey, we're evaluating Qualtrics and a bunch of other companies. And I was like, sweet, let's just get the deal done. He's like, no. We're going to have a bake-off. I was like, what? Come on, I know you. That would have never happened 10 years ago. But the culture that they're creating in their company is, no, my people are going to decide what they want to use. Benioff called me today and said, hey, Ryan, use Salesforce. My head of sales is going to decide what he wants to use. So the C-level introductions aren't meaning what they used to mean, which is kind of interesting.
How do you, when you're interviewing salespeople, going back to this idea of hiring a great salesperson, how do you know the difference, or what characteristics do you see in hiring these people from a good salesperson to a great salesperson? What are the differences that you see? So
we decide, first of all, are we going to grow them? Just like engineering, are we going to grow them or are we going to buy them? Right? Do I want someone who's sold from someone else? And is that a company that is an old school company in selling or a new school company in selling? And a great example of that is, we've got sales reps who are closing $500,000 deals over the phone without traveling per year. That wasn't possible 10 years ago.
Do you have openings? Like, are there,
Yeah.
That's the high-end Qualtrics.
The opportunity is going to pass.
We're announcing a new part-time job for me today on stage.
But you look at it, this is evidence that it's definitely changing, right? And, I think one of the things, if I were to take it back to kind of startup companies, is you start looking at your sales and your go-to-market, you've got to ask yourself the question, first of all, where's the spin going to come from? I'm going after a wallet share from a customer. Where's the spin going to come from? And, very rarely is it going to come from like an iPhone type device where it's like, oh yeah, I'll create some more money for that. Oh wow, I've never seen this before. Typically it's going to come from someone else's wallet. And companies don't do a good job at thinking about, hey, where am I going to get that money? Or where's that allocation going to come from? And what am I replacing there? So when we're looking at salespeople, we're saying, okay, who's going to be good enough to go either explain that, show them something new, or do something that's never even been done before? So we're taking a lot of people that have never been in sales, who are maybe super competitive, but more than that, they just won't give up, and saying, hey, go conquer the world. And some of our best sales reps are folks that have no business. I mean, they were going to be doctors, they were going to be accountants, they were going to be programmers.
A lot of people here from outside Silicon Valley, and you are in a very exclusive club of people that has built a billion-dollar company outside of Silicon Valley. I wonder, you spend a lot of time here. Your investors include Sequoia and Excel when you raised money a couple years ago, and they just reinvested recently. So what are the differences that you see in terms of the mindset with even a place that's only 2 hours from here, and the way of doing business, really positive things that you might see in Utah that you don't see here, or things here that you wish you could take home?
Yeah, I mean, look, no one's going to be Silicon Valley, right? Everyone's trying to create the next Silicon Valley. No, this is a special place. I mean, I don't think anything will ever be like that just because of the history. But we're also seeing that, no one's got the exclusive on smart people, right? Those are my Utah guys clapping, right?
That's the Provo guy again.
Yeah. Did do really good in Provo. So I think what you've got to do is learn the best you can from both places. There's a major talent war going on here. There's also a talent war going on in Utah. We've got 4 companies. There's been $1 billion of private capital invested in Utah in the last year and a half. But it's a different talent war. So in Utah, we have a ton of young people who are super entrepreneurial, like yourself, and they want to go do great things, But we don't have a lot of people that have been on this billion-dollar magic pony ride before, where there's a ton here. But if you told me I had to go build Qualtrics here and bootstrap to what we did here, there's no way that would happen. There's no way. I mean, I woke up in the Rosewood one night, like in the middle of the night, like sweating, like right before we took our Series A, because I thought they were going to make me come and relocate out here. And I was like, no, that's not happening. Because to make it work, to do what we were going to do in Utah, we had to be in Utah. So what's interesting is we've almost run out of talent in Utah, and so we're now in Seattle, we're in Dublin, we're in Australia, we're going to Dallas, we're in DC, and I see this being much more of the trend now. It's headquarters can be wherever it is, but reality is to scale, you're going to have to be a global company, and you're going to have to be there quickly, and that's something that people didn't tell me. But once we opened up Dublin, it kind of ripped the Band-Aid off.
Well, and what's going to happen too is in 5 years from now, you're going to have 10 or 20 different startups that will emerge from Qualtrics who learned from you guys, who saw like, hey, if Ryan and his dad and his brother could do it, like I can do it with my dad and my brother. So, and they'll take off and try to do the same thing and replicate it.
Yeah, success breeds success, and that couldn't be more true. So hopefully there'll be a bunch of companies coming through where they can kind of teach that next generation and aren't afraid to mess up.
Let's give it up for Ryan Smith. Thank you for coming, Qualtrics.